bringing Georgia on the stage. Georgia, how you doing this morning, afternoon?
Good afternoon. I am doing absolutely wonderful. Looking forward to the show today. We got an exciting guest.
Yes.
And welcome to our listening audience. Again, as always, every Thursday at 12 noon, it is GA for Justice. And I bring you greetings and welcome to everyone who's our listening audience, whether you're listening now or if you're going to listen later. Each week, we try to have a good conversation, real good conversation from members of our community. Some we have met numerous times, and some we're really just meeting. And our conversation is strictly for information, for correction, and for transformation. We're always honored to be on the show with Mr. Henderson Vaughn, and we want to thank him. He's our producer, engineer, and he makes sure that he gives us an opportunity to bring a really good message to our to our community. Getting tongue twisted. Too much election. That's what it is. Too much election. Wore me out. But
Hey,
anyway, we have a very special guest. And again, thank you so much, Henderson, for making this platform available to our community because people need to hear about what's going on all around Hampton Roads. And we have a super special guest today. We have Mr. David Barr. Mr. David Barr is from Hampton, Virginia, born and raised in a community called Aberdeen Gardens neighborhood of Hampton. And he attended Hampton High School and also went on to attend Hampton Institute. Hadn't been changed the name to university yet, but he's a graduate of class of 1985, graduated in mass media arts major with a minor degree in sociology, psychology, and speech communications. He continued on post graduation, where he lived and worked in Boston and Philadelphia for a major pharmaceutical company, something we were just talking about, right? Pharmaceutical company before taking an executive sales job with Ford Motor Company in Chicago in 1985. He continued to work at Ford Lincoln Mercury for 4 years before joining Johnson Publishing Company as an advertising marketing manager for Ebony magazine. And we all remember Ebony so well during a near 17-year tenure. And he was also a feature editor for none other than Ebony Man magazine between 1995 and 1998. Mr. Barr is an award winning actor. 1991 Joseph Jefferson citation for Best Principal Actor for the play Victims, and also received a Joseph Jefferson Award for Pill Hill in 1994 at the legendary Chicago Theater Company. He's a national award winning playwright and filmmaker. His plays include stage adaptations of Charles Johnson's Middle Passage, Walter Mosley's A Red Death, and Billy by Albert French. His original stage works include the Joseph Jefferson Award winning docudrama, The Upper Room, Death of the Black Jesus, a biopic about contralto Marian Anderson entitled Every Time I Feel the Spirit, and the civil rights docudrama My Soul is a Witness, that had two national tours and appeared in the Hindu Arts Festival in Calcutta, India in 2004. So, as you can tell, he has been out on the big stage for a number of years. Mr. Barr co wrote the acclaimed historical stage play, The Face of Emmett Till, with the mother of Emmett Lewis Till, Mrs. Mamie Till Mobley. The play premiered in the fall of 1999 and has seen productions across America, being staged in nearly half the states. It also appeared in Calcutta, India in 2004. As a filmmaker, he was the principal writer for the TV talk show Take Two that appeared on the VISN network. It was sponsored by Catholic Charities and was hosted by WGN TV anchor Mary D. Adapted The Gilded Six Bits by Zora Neale Hurston. The film was produced by Indiana's critically acclaimed West Side Theater Guild and was featured in several domestic film festivals across the country. His latest project is as co producer and co writer for the documentary film The Aberdeen Gardens 158, built by us for us. The movie was produced by the Historical Foundation of Aberdeen Gardens and his own company, the Unity Cornerstone Foundation, started with first cousin and co-producer, co-writer of this film, Tarina V. Smith. The film received its initial grant funding from the 400 Years of African American History Commission, who are under the auspices of the National Park Service and the U.S. Department of Interior. With that being said, we are pleased and welcome our very special guest, Mr. David Barr. And thank you so much for being with us today. Hello, David. How are you? Can you hear us or are you on mute?
No, he's not on mute. Hello?
I wonder, we can't, I see his actual face.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, looks like he's moving.
Yeah.
Hello, David. Can you hear us? I'm wondering if he's on mute.
No, his mic is not on mute. So. Hello.
Okay. I'm going to get us started. Again, Aberdeen Gardens is a historical Black community in Hampton, Virginia. It was built in 1935, and it was built under the New Deal under FDR. And this community has 440-acre subdivision. Can you hear us now?
I think he's trying to sign back on.
Okay. All righty. Looks like a little technical difficulties, but you know what? Those things happen sometime. So we're gonna we'll have him back on the air with us shortly.
Once he clicked back on, I'll let you know.
Thank you. Just send me a thumbs up. But anyway, we're real pleased to have him because not only is he going to share with us a little bit about the history of the Aberdeen Gardens over on the peninsula, he's also going to share a little bit about the Emmett Till movie. And that I'm excited about both. But the story of Mrs. Mamie Till Mobley was also not only fascinating, but was just heartwarming to watch the civil rights activist and her work. So we look like we got David back. And so we'll bring his face on the screen and we'll be ready to get started.
His mic is not muted. Hello.
Hello, David. I'm going to text him to check his mic. Check. Test 1, test 2, and test 3. So anyway, but I'm excited about having him here today because I did, talk with him about Aberdeen Gardens and what he's been doing over the years. Can you hear us now, David? I'm sending him a text real quick. Check your mic. For someone who's been in okay, it looks like his technology is moving a little slowly. Can you hear us? Okay, we are ready for you. So anytime you want to share with us, we are ready. Yeah, it kind of looks like, when you're doing a computer and it's slowly running. Okay, there he is. Okay,
Oh, that was me.
That was you? Yes. Yeah, check his button, mute button.
Let me send you another link and click on it. It might be because it might be something technical. I'll send you another one. And if not, then we'll have to go to do the phone.
Because he can actually be on the screen and then come through your phone, correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna send him another link.
Okay.
That might be sometimes technology has its own.
You're absolutely right. I find myself fighting with technology all the time. It's interesting that we're having a little technical issues today because periodically I go back and I read, okay, how to have a successful radio show and what are some of the little issues that might pop up. And, and when they do pop up, are you ready to respond to the issues? So I will assure you, we do expect issues to pop up, and yes, we are ready to respond when they do pop up.
And some of it they added on new software to this format too. So
exactly. And so, to my listening audience, we are always here week after week to share with you what is going on in Hampton Roads and sometimes what's going on around the country, especially if those things are affecting us. Of course, we want to send up prayers to the families of those young men who were lost at UVA the last few days, because those tragedies, people say, well, we become numb to them. No, you do not become numb to them. And so we want you, our listening audience, to please pray for those families. David, are you there? I see his face.
Yeah. I still can't hear. What I do, I'll call him and put him on the speaker.
Hello? I thought I heard him. I see him waving. We can't hear you.
Hello.
We cannot hear you.
Oh, yeah. That was him.
Okay. Maybe you need to turn up your volume a little bit. Okay. You might want to tap your volume up on your computer just a tad bit. All right. Okay. Well, I just want to welcome you to the show today. We are excited about hearing about Aberdeen Garden. So if you'll share some of that with us, that'd be great.
Right now.
That's Captain 85.
Yeah.
Do you know
hear
that
me at all?
Yeah, we hear you.
We hear you now.
Yeah, we hear you.
We hear you now.
We hear you.
No.
You can't hear us?
Can you hear us? Well, then just kind of share. Okay.
What I do is I'll just call him and put him on speaker.
Or we can send him a text. Just share your information.
Well, I'm gonna put him on speaker.
Okay.
So that way.
I'm gonna try to do it. Hey there. Hey.
Hello.
Should I try this on
We'll just talk to you through the phone. But see
you can okay?
Yeah, just put it on speaker.
Okay.
We'll talk to you. And I think you should be able to hear me through Henderson's phone.
Out of this.
Let's see, can you talk right now? Just say something now while you're on the screen.
Hello. How are you? Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm gonna get off the phone. Just talk to just keep talking.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
Can you hear us?
Yes, clear.
If you can hear us, then when George can just talk.
Okay. All right, we'll try that.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, now I can't hear Georgia. I can't hear Georgia now.
Okay, just tell them to just talk about Aberdeen Gardens.
Okay, let's try this. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's try. All right, thank you for having us as a guest, and thank you that I get all just thinking about it. That's a long time. I've been out here, man.
Okay, he's on mute, and you're on mute.
Well, again, look, thank you very much for having me here. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's an honor. I know the show, and I appreciate it. This is a special project. I'm getting some feedback here, so I probably should mute myself. Maybe. How about that?
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll move you from the screen and I'll put your picture up.
Okay, that's good. What I'll do is I'll move you from this. Okay. Maybe I should just get out of this and call and try to get through the phone.
Yeah, let him call in.
Yeah, call the number I just dialed.
Right, and let's see if that'll work better.
Call the number back I just called you on.
And we'll keep his picture up on the screen, and I'll talk to him that way.
Whenever there's a great show, there's
I know we got such a fantastic guest coming on today, and now technology decided to take over and not allow us to do the show. So we're gonna have to bring him back, and that way we can, check out all of the things ahead of time, make sure everything is working up to spiff, and just looking forward to him sharing with us, because I'm excited about both the Aberdeen Gardens, but also about Mamie Till in the documentary that he has written, because that's phenomenal. He had a chance to meet with her, work with her, to share the story of her son and the tragedy of what happened with her son in America. And I was trying to remember how old I was when he was murdered. Yeah. And I want to say I was like 2 or 3 years old when he was murdered. I can't remember. It's been a number of years ago, but it was just a horrific. It was absolutely horrific to have that occur. But what was even worse was the woman the last I checked was still alive, who made those accusations that she knew was not true on a child, so totally disregarding the fact that this was a child. It wasn't an adult male, it was a child. And she was fine living with that all of her life, of living with the horrific things that her husband and other members of the KKK and the supremacists that was in Money, Mississippi at the time. And it was just amazing. Okay, we're ready.
Okay.
He hears you, Georgia.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Okay, well, I just wanted to share a little bit about Aberdeen Gardens. I know it was built in 1935, and just kind of share the story, okay?
All right, well, first of all, again, thank you so much. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. It's definitely on my end, but I really apologize to you all, but thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me here. It's been great. Working on this particular project is a passion project for me, because I was born and raised in Hampton, and went to Hampton High, went to Hampton Institute, soon to be turned into Hampton University on my class. And I was born and raised in this neighborhood. It's been Neighborhood of the Year twice. That's a national honor for us. And it's on the Virginia State Landmarks Register and the National Register of Historic Places. But it actually started as a dirt mound for the better part of anything. It was a jungle of weeds and forestry and everything. There was nothing there but that and dirt and mud. And in 1934, Dr. Arthur C. Howe at Hampton Institute at that time, wrote the FDR administration and asked for a grant of about $275,000 to build a new settlement community for African Americans. And he was surprised that he got it, actually. And it became the first Black planned community. And that was under his FDR's New Deal legislation. It was actually under the President Franklin Roosevelt's sustenance Homestead Project. But the thing that made it unique, and this is again in the middle of Jim Crow, but the thing that really, really made it unique was that it was designed by an African-American architect, that's Hilliard Robertson, who was at Howard at the time, a famous architect. And it was engineered and managed by African Americans. The engineer in charge at that time was Charles Duke. He was the architect in charge, but he was the engineer. And it was also constructed brick by brick, piece by piece, by local Black construction workers and gardeners and asphalt, the little bit that they could have then, and roofers and everybody else. But it was a total built by Blacks for Blacks environment. And that really, really made it unique. Now, again, this is in the middle of the Jim Crow administration. Jim Crow, the heat of Jim Crow. And remember, we're only 70 miles away from the Confederate White House. So not a lot of people outside of us in our community, Hampton Roads community, wanted to see this thing succeed. And it was really still under the gun to whether or not it was going to succeed. It started in 1934. And in 1937, they opened the first week in November 1st to be exact, 1937. But it was still under the gun of whether or not it was going to succeed until Eleanor Roosevelt came here on a visit to the Hampton Roads area, in particular Hampton Institute at the time, and insisted on touring the Aberdeen Gardens community. And she was so impressed by what the African-American builders and constructors and architects had made. She was so impressed with that she said, she went back to her husband and she said, they will not be moved. Now, as we know through history, she had championed affordable housing and housing period, and the elimination of restricted housing covenants for years. And she hadn't been very successful, but some of them she had been. But this is one that she really put her heart into and said, they're not going to move. It's a wonderful community, and we think that they should stay no matter what kind of pressures we're having on the outside. So 1937, they opened their first homes, and 2 years from now, a year and a half from now, we will be celebrating 90 years here on the Hampton Roads, in the Hampton Roads community, as the first Black planned community. And it's the actual last one that's actually still left in standing. It's the only one left in standing, largely in part. The original homes were 158, and they're largely still intact. I think we had two fires, about at 156 now, but we're the last one left standing, intact. And I'm very, very proud to be part of that. My grandparents were part of the original pilgrims, the original pioneers. And I'm just so proud of being a part of that community as a neighbor and as a third generation Aberdeener.
Fantastic. Some of the questions I was going to ask you answered, like who was the architect. What about the street names? What are the significance of the street names in Aberdeen Gardens?
Well, one of the things that they wanted to do, because they started out with the concept for us, by us, they wanted to be able to name the streets after prominent African Americans or people who had made strong contributions to African Americana or to working within the African diaspora here on this continent. For example, the museum, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but the museum is actually located on Merritt Peak Boulevard. Merritt Peak was an emancipator, a liberator, an educator who actually was known for being one of the people who actually taught children in classes up under the Emancipation Oak at Hampton University. And there's several others in the area, that like Walker Avenue and Langston Boulevard. Those are all named after, the founders of St. Paul University and, the Penny Saver Bank. as her, Ms. Walker, Madam Walker. And we wanted to make sure, or they wanted to make sure, that every time their kids woke up and they walked down Langston Boulevard or they walked down Mary Peak Boulevard, that they would be walking through history. That was very important. And to this day, it's taught in the Aberdeen Elementary, which is still there as well. But that's just part of their lore. With the exception of Aberdeen Road, everything in Aberdeen is named after someone significant, an African-American pioneer.
Fantastic. Yeah, we, years ago when I was the youth advisor to the NAACP, we took our students up to Richmond to the Magdalena Walker House, which I believe is one of the streets that is named in Aberdeen Gardens. And you're right, she owned her own bank, she owned her own insurance company. This woman was phenomenal. And one of the things that I found very impressive, because of course the house was built like in the early 1920s, I believe. She had an elevator in her house back then. That was amazing.
Absolutely, that's right. I mean, and I'll tell you, it's so important, especially these days. And I don't want to get on my high horse. I promise I wouldn't today, but I'm just so excited to be here and talk about our film. One of the things that we absolutely have to do, and this is a commonwealth that's built on history. That's our major export. Tourism is the history. They go to the beach every now and then, that's fine, but the history is our export. That's a major thing we're supposed to be noted for. And our history somehow continues to be relegated to the back pages. Right. And the people that had the vision, the people that constructed and conceived Aberdeen Gardens were determined not to let that happen on their watch. That is why one of the main streets in Aberdeen Gardens is named after Madam Walker, primarily because of her exploits, her incredible history in the face of, we're still dealing with sexism at that particular time, not just marginalization or disenfranchisement, but at that particular time, we're still in the middle of, it was just 15 years past suffrage when women were allowed, some women, not all, but some women were allowed to vote. So they wanted to make sure that everybody, not just the adults, but especially our kids, every time they walk down one of those streets in Aberdeen, they would be able to say, I live on that, and that's named for so-and-so. So we don't have any of that right now. Not any of that. Not going for the gaslights of critical race theories and all of that foolishness. We're talking about history, real history, not anybody else's twist on it. Real history. And she was definitely part of American history. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I tell you, it is very exciting to have you here today because, again, the whole point of this show, and Henderson will tell you, Captain 85 will tell you, we took our time before we ever started this show because we wanted it to be something different, something fresh. And again, we wanted a show that really talked to the community and talked about our community in a positive setting, because we'll get negativity all day long. But all around Virginia, like you said, Virginia is full of history and it's full of Black history as well. And amazing things were done in this state, even though we're not given credit. And even though a lot of times people want to use the CRT. And to me, CRT just means us telling the truth about,
absolutely,
about this country. It should be called Country Real Truth. Okay, CRT, Country Real
absolutely.
Truth. Okay.
I like that. That's right. I'll be honest with you. When I start hearing that from the governor, the current governor, right. When I start hearing that from the governor in Florida, when I start hearing that from different people who are known for disenfranchisement, who are known for saying things to continue to contribute to our disinheritance, it really makes me sad, but it terrifies me because I see these school children. I do a lot of work with school children in Chicago, and I've done that throughout my career. My plays are oriented around the education of our people, but especially our kids. But when I hear someone trying to purposely give them the old bum rush and the old gaslight and things like that, things that I was coming through as a child. I mean, I was at the end of what I hope at least will be the last American apartheid, America's codified segregation that we'll ever see. But to be honest with you, this is a step backwards, this CRT crap. And these other things that they're talking about, banning of books, banning of certain types of people and speakers to certain universities of knowledge and things like that. That's the first step back toward fascism, toward the American apartheid that has plagued us for the better part of half a millennia. And I especially get nervous when I hear about it in a commonwealth, in a state like Virginia. All right, we should be the cradle of the history and finally getting it right. And it looks like we're taking 2 Mother May I steps backwards every time I hear one of these CRT pundits open their mouths. And that makes me very sad.
Well, I agree with you 100%. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to rechange the name, and we're going to call it Country's Real Truth.
Absolutely. We need to get Henderson or some other one of your other colleagues that will start working on that patent right now. We need to get that copyrighted and have T-shirts printed. Okay.
And stop
Absolutely. You onto something there, Ms. Georgia. You onto something right there. Love it.
Stop allowing them to just capture our stuff and just rechange it. They have appropriated everything that we can possibly think of from our Black community. They appropriated our patents, our inventions, our innovation, our music, all of
That's
our
exactly right. I mean, I'm working with a colleague now. She's got a podcast that she's working on, and one of the first things she talks about, ironically enough, up under the Emancipation tree, Emancipation Oak at Hampton University, one of the first things she talks about is the Ida B. Wells doll right now that Mattel has made, and who's getting the proceeds from that? Are any of her family members benefiting from that? It would be interesting to find out all of the different things and all the different culture that's been appropriated illegally or surreptitiously. It would be interesting, all these now historic figures that companies like Mattel and other places are making all this money out of. If their family, if any of their ancestors, their descendants, I should say, any of their descendants are making any money off of that, because the only time it seems like we're going to get our side of the story or any part of our story told is if they can commercialize us. That's what it feels like to me. Very rarely do they get our stories right, but they'll work real hard to get, quote unquote, their stories right. And that also makes me sad, but we can do something about that. We got more power over our images, and I want us to continue to use our power when we have those opportunities to do shows like you're doing now, to talk about these issues. Because when I was coming up, you seem a little younger than I am. When I was coming up, we didn't have
younger than me.
We didn't have these platforms, okay? So now that we have an opportunity for you and I to have dialogue and real conversation about real issues, I'm gonna take full advantage of it. I'm just so honored to be here. So thank you so much for letting us hear your voice and hear you talk about these issues.
Thank you. Well, I'm honored to have you here. And of course, we did talk beforehand, because you shared with me about meeting Mrs. Mamie Till Mobley, and kind of share with the audience a little bit about when you first met her and how did that make you feel?
Well, I want to tell the audience I had to apologize to Miss Georgia. All she's got to do is mention a few of the people that helped mentor me, and the next thing you know, I done talked her battery down because I'm just so honored and happy and grateful and blessed to have met so many wonderful people who've changed the paradigm for African Americans, our culture. And Lord knows Ms. Mobley, Mother Mobley was one of them. I met Ms. Mobley in the early part of 1997. A mutual acquaintance of ours had approached me about writing a stage play about her son and the experience that she had in particular. I was working for Ebony Magazine at the time. And obviously Jet Magazine and Ebony have a long-standing history with her particular story, with the murder of her son, Emmett Lewis Till. And I shook that woman's hand the first time. I mean, she was so approachable. She was still listed in the yellow pages. Wow. That's how accessible she really was during that day. I shook that lady's hand, and I swear to God, my whole world changed. Everything I thought, everything I conceived about what the civil rights movement was all about, all of the hagiography and all of the bombast and the iconoclasm and all that thing
Mm-hmm.
that I got wrapped up in was embodied in this one person. This one little 4'11" person. Okay, if she wore heels, she was probably 5 feet tall. But I'm using her language. Her line, she would always joke about that because she was short. But my God, she was a towering presence. And it made all of the different sacrifices, the blood and the sweat and the losses, the tragedy, the traumas, it made all of that real when I shook that lady's hand. And she started talking about the real thing, about what it's like to be the victim or have someone near and dear to you, her only child, the only child she was ever going to have, victimized and for all the world to see. And it just changed everything that I wrote and thought about it, anything else from that moment forward. If she could come through that and turn this negative, this horrible negative, probably one of the most horrific negatives any mother could ever go through, into an incredible feeling of redemption and triumph. If she can make a negative, something that was so negative into a positive, anybody can.
Absolutely.
Anybody can. She really changed my life. And I was just so honored to meet her and then to work with her and travel with her for the better part of years. See, I didn't meet her. I didn't interview her. I didn't work with her. I got to know her. She became a surrogate grandmother for me. And I'm so happy that more people are now getting to know the real Mrs. Mobley as much as you can without having known her. But I just wish everybody in America could have shaken that woman's hand and spent 5 seconds with her. Their lives been forever, as was mine.
Wow, that is phenomenal. I was looking at, Emmett was only 14 years old, of course, when he was murdered on, do you believe, August the 28th, 1955. Now, what is significant about August 28th?
Well, it's amazing you say that because as the years went by, and she fights her fight in her own way. She becomes a school teacher in Hampton, in Chicago, Illinois, the last freestanding, free-roving public school teacher that the Chicago Teachers Association actually sanctioned to do that. That means she could go to any school, teach on any subject. She did that for 23 years, but she did not learn until the unveiling of the Civil Rights Memorial in Montgomery, Alabama, some years later, 1989, if I'm not mistaken. She didn't learn until, sitting with Coretta King, she didn't learn that Martin Luther King specifically chose August 28th,
1963, to do the March on Washington. The same day as the death.
And I'm going to tell you, when she told that story, she was very unaware of that. Remember, we don't have the internet then, and you don't have a lot of access to a lot of knowledge at your fingertips. You've got to have somebody actually tell you the story, or go to the old libraries and go to maybe a card catalog or microfiche, and maybe have someone make a comment. She did not know that until Coretta Scott King told her this herself at the unveiling of the Civil Rights Memorial at the Southern Poverty Law Center in Montgomery, Alabama, and it just washed all over her how important that was. I mean, it was still fresh then. Absolutely. A lot of people forget 8 years or something like that is like 8 minutes ago for them because the news cycle was longer. Right. So, I mean, from 1955 to 1963, so many things happened, but nothing happened bigger than the murder and the public show trial, the kangaroo court and exoneration, quote unquote. That's what wound up happening, of the murderers of Emmett Till. So Dr. King specifically wanted to make sure that people would not forget the murder of her son and the injustices that happened to her specifically afterwards. He never, ever, ever, ever wanted anybody to forget that. And she felt so honored by that. And I mean, it just goes to show that the need for the camaraderie and the fellowship, the connection that we all have to continue to have. And to be very frank with you, that's one of the reasons why I was so committed to doing this film about my neighborhood, my old neighborhood, Aberdeen Gardens, because that's the last time that I felt that connection, that fellowship, that sorority, that fraternity, that link from neighbor to neighbor to neighbor. Everyone always had each other's back. That's the only way they could survive. That's the only way they could survive. That's what happened in Aberdeen Gardens. That's what happened in the community in Mississippi. And that's what happened in Chicago when everyone rallied behind Mrs. Mobley, even though she was crying for all the world to see. and dying inside every time she opened her eyes. And that was something I wanted to get across in the film that we just did, The Aberdeen Gardens 158. But I also wanted to get it across in the play that we did together called The Face of Emmett Till, that she and I co-wrote together. And it's been done all over the country. It's actually been done almost half of the states around the country for the better part of the last 25 years. This is its 25th anniversary. And what I wanted to do with the stage play we did together, and what she insisted on, was making sure that we got out is how many people were there for her to help keep her upright, to keep her together. And that's Black and white people.
Right.
And she also wanted us to know that we still have a lot of work to do. So
absolutely,
visions and working at different parts of the same goal sometimes doesn't really work. Moving forward with the same vision and the same voice in the same direction is the only way that she survived. And she wanted that play to speak to that. And I want this film that we just did to speak to that. The executives of the film are the Historical Foundation of Aberdeen Gardens, and the president of the group is Margaret Jones Wilson, who just happens to be the first grandchild born in Aberdeen Gardens. And Ms. Margaret reminds me a lot of Ms. Mobley, quite frankly. They are very spiritual. They have a very, very strong belief in right and wrong, and a strong commitment into making sure that future generations will see that strength that we had push forward. I mean, now they both have had successful individual careers, and they both are loved by their communities, beloved by their communities, but they're always talking about someone else. They're always talking about the future. They're always talking about the children. And it's amazing how much adulation Mrs. Mobley had received through the years. I never heard her talk about herself, ever. I never heard her talk about, I didn't get this, I wish I had gotten this. And her thing was, what else can I do? Can I do more? I should have done more. I wish I had time to do more. She told me something I never forgot that I use as my own mantra, since we're putting out slogans here today. She said, listen, my thing is, I want to go to bed exhausted every night because I'm living two lives. I'm living mine and I'm living my son's.
Wow.
And I want to go to bed, and this is the last day that I open my eyes, I close my eyes and not open them again. I want to go to bed saying to God, I've done the best I can do. And that's what she did. She actually has a heart attack en route to going to Atlanta to watch a documentary on her son. She has a heart attack en route there. She said, I will spend the rest of my days talking about my son and trying to prevent another tragedy like this from happening to someone else's son. And she did.
Wow.
She did. She ran the race, just like as in Isaiah, she ran the race well.
Yes.
And that's what, and again, going back to the film, that's one of the things that I'm proudest of about our film. We lost, and I know we discussed it earlier, we lost 5 people during the production of this particular film. We lost 3 cast members and 2 support cast for our production who were in big time parts, very integral in the creation and the proliferation of this particular film, funding, all kinds of things. The hardest thing it was to do in this film, the hardest thing for me to do was to fill out that in memory line, the last line of the film.
Right.
Because I know that these were truly soldiers of the cross. Mm-hmm. They were soldiers, okay, in the army. And I was so impressed just because of the way that the painstaking time that the film took. I had a sneaking suspicion that maybe 1 or 2 of them might not see the finished product, but I had no idea that all 5 of them wouldn't see it. Well, flash back to 1997, we were in a time race because Mrs. Mobley wasn't well at the particular time. So we didn't know she was going to be able to see the play that premiered in September of 1999. But let me tell you something, that lady's strong. She was strong. Oh my God, she was strong. Wow. She wanted to see that play. You hear me? And she got there, her and her husband. They were there opening night. They were not only there, but we got a chance to travel back and forwards, across the country a couple of times so she could support it. And it just goes to show that, when you have an opportunity to work on anointed projects like this, you're supposed to do this. This was her assignment, she felt, or part of her assignment, to support this play so other people could see it. This is way before movies and documentaries were done. She was like, we're going to go step by step. This is the play. This is the time we're going to support it. That's the same thing that happened with our film, The Aberdeen 158. We have people that passed who had just gotten out of the hospital that morning for a late morning interview. That's how much they wanted to talk about their neighborhood and talk about their community. And I'm just so pleased and blessed that the Historical Foundation of Aberdeen Gardens gave us the opportunity to support us. They had never done anything like this before, but they had a faith in us and a belief in us. And when I say us, I'm talking about my cousin, my co-founder of Unity Cornerstone Foundation, my co-writer and co-producer of the film, Tarina V. Smith. Tarina was incredible, also someone who'd never done this before. But her mother was actually the one. Her mother, Dorothy Milo Smith, was the one to give me the idea to do this film 10 years ago. Sadly, my aunt passed before she could see this thing come to fruition. But with Mrs. Mobley and with the people who knew that we were shooting, they knew that we were committed to tell their stories and to tell them accurately. And I'll be doggone if I was going to close my eyes and hopefully one day see them again and say that I could have done a better job. I was not going to do that. They trusted me, and I was not going to betray that trust. And we were very fortunate. We had tons of people. Our director, Tamika Winborn, who's actually from here, as well as the rest of our production crew, just did incredible work for us and great soundtrack and everything. The same thing happened in Chicago. The entire community rallied behind this particular project, The Face of Emmett Till, because they knew how important it was to our history, but also how important it was to Mother Mobley. So I just feel so blessed. I mean, if I didn't do anything but those two projects, I'd be able to die happy and say, hey, I did about this. I'd be okay with that. But thank God the Lord blessed me to do other things. But I mean, I tell people all the time, I might do stuff that's more popular. I might do stuff that's better written and more important. I mean, I might do stuff that's better written and make me more money and be more, out there. But I'll never do anything more important than these two projects ever. I mean, it may make a lot more money and it may be able to be sold on T-shirts, whatever else I'll do. But these two projects really did me proud, and I think really signify what our community is able to do when we all pull our heads together. Same thing in Chicago. I'm very proud of both of those projects.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, I'm excited. Now, the film project, is that something that we can buy on video? Is it something that's being showed on PBS? Where can someone go and get that? Also, your website and all. We want to make sure that we have that to share with the listening audience, because a lot of this is brand new to people. And anytime we can get this information out to our community, to educate our community, it's a win. And what I heard when you were talking about the people that stood and almost refused to die just so they could make sure this happened, that's the will. That is the will that we as Black people have. We will stand the test of time to make sure those things that need to happen come into fruition. So I am just excited about it. So share with us.
I'm going to tell you, it's the same thing that happened with Mother Mobley. We have these beautiful, beautiful sisters, aunts of mine. Really, they talk about the village. Well, just like one of the cast members who does an interview with us on our film says, they say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, we had a village and they raised us. And these were three prominent members of our village who we lost. But this was, in essence, they knew something we didn't know. This was going to be their last will and testament. And they were not going to be denied. And I am telling you, and I knew how sick a couple of them were. I didn't know about the other ones, but they were bound and determined. I was about to say something else. They were bound and determined to make sure that their voice got out there, because David, my nickname is Duke in the neighborhood, because Duke's doing a project, and I know Duke's going to do it to the best of his ability and bring it forth. And along with my cousin Tarina, we spent many a night, many a day banging around, making sure that we were not going to let these ladies down, and we didn't. I'm so pleased with that. And I was able to to look the families in their eyes when we premiered it at American Theater back in mid-September. The whole town showed out, and it was wonderful. It was a private thing, but it gave us an opportunity to talk to the families who just lost these loved ones and just thank them for allowing us to have a few of those last moments. But we're very fortunate. We've got a broadcast premiere coming up in January on the channel. I'm supposed to wait until they give me the okay, but it'll be in January. You'll be able to see it on a channel affiliated with the 400 years of African American history.
Okay.
So as soon as I get that, then I'll pass that along. But in the meantime,
we'll bring you back. When you're able to release that information, we'd like to have you come back and share.
Oh, sure. Yes. Believe me, I would love to do that. But in the meantime, though, I can give you a couple of numbers where you can actually arrange tours, and you can actually get a copy of the DVD, which I'm also sending to you as well, Miss Georgia.
Okay.
But you can actually call for tours and to get more information about the DVD at area code 757 722 2345. At 757-722-2345. It's and you can go to our website to just see some more information about what I'm talking about. And that's at www.aberdeenGardensFoundation.org. That's at www.aberdeenGardensFoundation.org. And you can see a little bit about what we're doing. We've renovated the museum. That should be ready to go by the end of the year. And our tour should be resuming relatively soon. But we are going to, and ask about the DVD and everything. And you can mention my name, so make sure you get it through and make sure you get what you need to get. But yeah, we're going to be it's going to have a broadcast premiere, the national broadcast premiere, in about a month and a half now. And I'm really excited about it. I've sent you a trailer, so at any time you can play whatever you want to play. And I feel very, very proud of that as well. And a few things I've sent. So for your audiences, but we've really spent a lot of time, the better part of 10 years, getting ready for this moment to talk about our neighborhood, to talk about the fellowship, to talk about the foundation, historical foundation of Aberdeen Gardens, in association with the Aberdeen Gardens Civic and Historic Association, which is our business side, and just worked seamlessly with us through this whole process. I mean, one deals with the history, one deals with the money, but they work together hand in glove with us, helping us and supporting us. And that's Terry Gay Van is the president of that. And he's a third generation Aberdener. His band is very, very prominent, has been very prominent. Actually, there's a fourth generation. But he and his group, his colleagues, and on the foundation side as well, just couldn't have been more supportive of what we've done. And I think it shows in the product that's come through.
All right. Well, David, we want to thank you. We're coming to the end of the show. We really appreciate it.
No, don't let me go. No,
I know. This has been so informative, and you are an excellent guest because you really gave us some meat and potatoes. And that's what I like about this show, is because a lot of our guests, they come on and they really share some valuable information. And of course, this will be played on YouTube and other social media platforms. We'll send you the link once the show is over. Henderson will send me the link. You'll be able to share with all of your family and friends and others, so that we can get this information out, because of course a lot of people are at work at lunchtime.
Well, we want to, and we I'm going to tell you, thank you so much. You given me an incredible gift, but you've also by giving me the platform to do this, you give me an opportunity to honor our ancestors in our community, in our neighborhood. This thing has shaped so many different people, have come through Aberdeen Gardens. And as much as we can talk about it, we can only do but so much. So by giving us the platform to talk about our film, again, the Aberdeen Gardens 158, built by us, for us, and also talk about just how special what it was that our grandparents and great-grandparents did. You make them come alive again for us. And talking about Mother Mobley, God, my heart is still bleeding. It's almost 30 years. 20 years. It's almost 20 years since she passed. I feel like it's 20 minutes ago. It's the same thing for the families and the people who passed in our film. By giving us the opportunity to talk about them, you reanimate them. you reanimate them. So you've given us a wonderful gift this morning, and thank you so much. I really appreciate you all.
And thank you, Henderson. And I'm always happy to open up the phone lines, open up the social media so that people are able to see you. I'm so sorry we had technical difficulties today, but guess what? We're going to invite you to come back as it gets closer to the time that you're able to announce when the show is going to be on air. By all means, someone sent a message. I like that CRT countries.
I tell you, you go to I mean, literally and figuratively, I will be the first in line to buy the T-shirt, Miss Georgia. I'm online right now. I'm making a commitment to you. Okay, when I make my commitments, I go through. So make sure you got one in XXX extra fat. Okay, okay. Give me one in extra fat, and I'll be right there for you. I don't care what color it is, as long as it's not red. No, I'm kidding.
Okay. Henderson, did you hear? Look, they done gave us some work to do, so you and I got to get this T-shirt together.
Absolutely, we're gonna do that. I'm all in. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me.
Really appreciate you joining us today. And you take care. Have a great day. And again, we're gonna invite you to come back.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, you too. Bye-bye. Wow. Hey. It's like being in church on Sunday morning and the pastor gives you a dynamic message. Right. I tell you, we really got fed today. You know, I don't think anybody can walk away hungry today other than hungry for more. That's the only thing they can hunger for is hunger for more, because he definitely filled us up with great information. I'm so thrilled. As a matter of fact, Stephanie Furby is the person that referred Mr. Barr to us. She's with Culture by LE, and she sent us a nice message this morning. And I hope that people really take the time to listen to GA for Justice. We are on every Thursday at 12 noon. Again, my name is Georgia F. Allen. I have been in the Virginia Beach community for almost my entire life, but I've worked around the community for a number of years. Finally, I do want to let people know that on Saturday from 10:30, I want to say to 2:30, I don't have it in front of me, but there is going to be a Democratic caucus for the seat that Jen Kiggins will be given up to go to the U.S. Congress. So anybody who's living in the Aragon area, Cypress Point, Lynbrook Landing, go to Ebenezer Baptist Church and you will be able to vote for, it's called a Fireside Caucus, and that will determine who will run against the Republican candidate. I want to say I don't have all the dates yet. We're still trying to get all of that, filtered out, but it should be in December. So just want to remind everybody, elections are not over. When someone loses a seat, that means that seat has to be replaced. So, when someone wins a seat or loses a seat, that seat has to be replaced. So we need you to stay engaged, and people will be sending you information. Thank you so very much. Enjoyed the show today, and Henderson is going to close us out. Have a great day and see you next week.
All right. You've been watching and listening to GA for Justice with Georgia Allen, former president of the NAACP in Virginia Beach. And don't forget, every Thursday from 12 until noon. And please share the link with other people on your social media network. Until next time, until next Thursday, we'll be expecting you to be here. GA for Justice with Georgia Allen. Thanks so much to our guests. And don't forget to check out Aberdeen Gardens 158 trailer. We'll have him back on the show to give you more information. Until next time, have a nice day.